Hello, I'm Jun Donovan, the founder of Unconscious, and this is part two of a special mini series that we're doing here on the Unconscious channel. Yesterday, we explored this concept of the difference between living and creating in response to the lack in our lives and the lack that we sense within us versus living and creating from our own inherent wholeness. And the reason why this conversation matters so much is because the difference is all the difference. The difference between lack energy and wholeness energy completely affects every single aspect of our life, every single aspect of our journey, and it affects the outcomes too. And so basically, to sum up what we discussed in the last transmission, if you weren't able to join us in that, you can go watch the replay, which I would highly recommend. But the summary is that creating in lack means that you're constantly having to prop things up. It's an exhausting use of energy. And the only reason why we're doing it is because at some level we know that the truth is we're whole. We're already whole. And anything that we're doing to try and prop up the energetically unstable structures in our lives, to fill the holes in our lives, to fill the holes in our hearts, to fill the holes in our self-concept, all of that is just an attempt to be made whole again. And so we're going to take this conversation a next level further today. And this is the topic of what becomes the natural byproduct when we live and create in wholeness. And so today's topic is purpose, power, and prosperity. And the reason why I've titled the video these three things is because ultimately everything that we want as human beings comes back to those three things. It's everything that we want is a version of power or purpose or prosperity. And so basically, the way that I look at this is what becomes possible when we're creating from wholeness. Now, power, purpose, and prosperity are also available to the lack-based versions of us, but it's an entirely different experience. So I want to just take these one at a time. So let's start with power. First of all, the reason why human beings seek power is because we are powerful beings. It's just in our nature. Anytime a person, you, me, anybody else in the world feels powerless, it feels so awful because it's not true. And if you can let that land for just a moment, it's an interesting thing to just let simmer in the back of your mind for a little bit. When we talk about power, there are multiple kinds of power. What we're reaching for in this series of transmissions is what I like to call whole truth power. Power that is completely born from our own state of being, born from our own truth. It's not power that's based off of lack, which we'll get to just in a minute. But true power is the kind of power that looks like I decide, I move, I am, and the world around me responds. I am, and the universe responds. There's no muscling through. In fact, the kind of power that most people associate with just the word power is when we're talking about people, not like electricity, obviously. When we're talking about people and power, most of us associate that with lack-based power. Lack-based power is any kind of power that looks like controlling other people, needing to control environments, control situations. It looks like getting an individual that has decided they're going to come into the power and they're going to get what's theirs. It's like you go into business and instead of showing up with all the value of your business, you're trying to get results. You're trying to get people's attention. You're trying to get the sale. Do you feel the energy of that? Like just from a distance, it looks like, ooh, that's a powerful person. They're out there hustling, making it happen in the world. But the getting energy, it's kind of gross. And sensitive people can feel this. And more people are becoming aware of it. You know the difference between when you go to buy a car and you've got a salesperson that is just so in their power. They know that they represent incredible cars, an incredible company, a great maybe dealership, and values and they care about people. And that's that salesperson in their power versus when you've got a salesperson who just really needs the sale. And so they're trying to get the sale. And as the customer, you feel the difference night and day. And which one do you like? And this is the difference between power in truth versus power in lack. Lack-based power looks like taking. When somebody isn't like so driven by their ego human mind that they can't get enough of it, that's when they start taking what's not theirs to take. And then the world around says that's injustice, or the people that are on board with the taker start taking with them and they create a community of taking. Lack-based power looks like needing, and this can be a very potent kind of power, like in a relationship where you need love. You need the person to see your point of view. You need them to come and do it your way. You need to be right. You need to be understood. And that energy can get so intense, and the intensity feels powerful, but it's a kind of power that only elicits more lack. Lack-based power also feels like resisting. And socially, we've created many instances in society where we applaud resistance kind of power because we say we resist what we disagree with. But resistance incites more resistance. There's a reason why just about every spiritual what's the word I'm looking for? Every spiritual legacy, every spiritual way of life throughout the thousands of years of humanity have had some version of that which you resist persists because it is powerful, but it doesn't actually create a way forward. It just creates more resistance, and then we get confused about how we made a breakthrough, which is not this conversation. That's another conversation. But the last way that I'll highlight lack-based power is that it looks like avoiding. Ultimately, if you can't get what you need, if you can't take what you need, if you can't resist your opposition enough, then eventually some people give up and they use their power to go and avoid what they're afraid of, what they think they can't overcome, or what they think is imposing onto them. And so all of that is ways that humans are frequently used to seeking power. But the ultimate reason why power is something that we reach for is because it's what we are. Do you remember when you were a little kid and you just felt like the world was your oyster? It's like you could get home from school and put on your astronaut helmet that you made out of your dad's old motorbike helmet, and you painted it and painted NASA on it, and you felt like you could just run around the yard flying through the stars, and you knew that if you really wanted to be an astronaut one day you could be because you felt that powerful. And or whatever the version is, like it felt so real, and you were powerful enough to put yourself into any imaginary situation you wanted to and to live in it and enjoy it. And there was part of you that believed that if you want to grow up and be that as an adult, like you could be. I remember as when my nephew, one of my nephews, was just this little kid. He was like a 1.5-year-old that could speak full sentences, and we said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And he said, "I want to be a Spider-Man space doctor." And we're like, "What's that?" And he said, I'm going to go into space and I'm going to fix the planets that are broken because of the aliens." And we'd say, "How are you going to fix them? How are you going to fix the planets?" And he goes, "With tape." And this kid had no question in his mind whether he could. And then a couple years later, he changed his mind. He got into geography and then he changed his mind again. But there was no part of him that doubted, do I have what it takes? Is the world going to allow me? Are there any rules written into the fabric of existence that inhibit me? Do I have any like internal restrictions, my belief systems, my coding, my genetics? Like there was no part of him that doubted that he was a powerful being and he could decide what to be. He just was it. And then we grow up and we start developing all of these paradigms, these systems of belief about where our power actually comes from until eventually we land in a kind of existence where the power seems to exist outside of us. And we decide that the power lies with the politicians and the religious leaders and the people who have all the money and the people who were born luckily talented and the people who were just born courageous or the people who had a really hard time but somehow got lucky and broke through. But we don't understand that true power is always sourced internally. When you think about what we talked about in yesterday's transmission, what being whole with ourselves really is, a whole person is not the person who's running around the world saying, when I have evidence in front of me to show that I'm enough, when the people tell me I'm enough, when I get the awards or build the big achievements in life, then I'll feel like I'm enough. A whole person just knows I am the source of my worth. Like I am worthy because that's how I came into this life, and that's just written into the core of my existence. I am my own source of worth. And if I want to go and express that in my human life and build a big business that reflects my worthiness, like then I can. And if it takes me several tries, I'm worthy the entire time. And maybe I'll try 5 times and then realize I want to pivot to this business idea instead. And if I do that, I'll be worthy in the pivot as well. That's someone who sources their whole truth from within. And someone who is sourcing their whole truth is also no, they also don't feel a lack of deserving. They don't feel guilty receiving abundance as they broadcast the abundance of their existence. They know that the value of what they fundamentally are, which is like the truth of who we really are, it's everything we love. It's kindness, it's love, it's generosity, it's caring. It's when we're being our best selves, when a human being is being their best selves, they're not taking, they're not scheming, they're not manipulating, they're not twisting, they're not coercing, they're not stealing. A person, when they're being their best selves, and we all know what that means, and you know what it means for you just as much as I know what it means for me. That's when we know we are fundamentally deserving of goodness because we are goodness. And so there are no human games where we try to manipulate the situations in order to get the power and then exercise our power born from manipulation to to do enough, to work hard enough in order to finally justify deserving existing as a powerful being. We just are it. And the same goes with belonging. A person in their whole truth isn't running around the world trying to manipulate people's perceptions of them so that they then belong, so that then they get invited. A person in lack is the person who says, I'm not wanted until you want me. I'm not invited into the places I desire being until I make it so that you invite me. That's that lack power. A person in lack power is the person who will go and have this kind of like ulterior agenda as they show up at the networking event or as they show up in the new social circle where they in the city they just moved to, and they're not bringing their truth, which is just I show up knowing I belong first and foremost to me, which is so powerful. I belong to me. I belong to love. I belong to goodness, and I belong where I appreciate being. And because I live in that power, because it's what I am, I can go into any setting and I can pull up my own seat to the table, not because I'm like trying to defy the situation or because I'm trying to prove something. That's ego power, that's lack power. In my truth, I don't even go to the places where I don't want, actually desire to belong because I know it's not for me. I go where I desire to belong and I bring my own belonging. That's truth-based power. And the same goes for significance. A person in that's lacking their own significance, that's the person that says, I feel like I don't matter until I've done something that then gets validation that it did matter. And so I'm gonna write a best-selling book, but if it doesn't sell 1 million copies, then I'm gonna feel kind of bad that it didn't take off, and I guess it didn't matter that much. So I'm gonna launch a YouTube channel, and oh, it only got 100 views. Oh, I guess it didn't matter that much. Ergo, I must not matter that much. But I'm going to keep exercising my power because that's the responsible thing to do. So I'm going to go and do community service and I'm going to try and make a difference. But oh, no one really noticed I was there. I doubt they would even miss me if I didn't come next week. Oh, I guess I don't actually matter. Do you feel how conditional that kind of power is versus a person in there who sources their significance from within and they know that they were just born as a little piece of the fabric of the universe, a drop in the ocean of humanity, and just their existence is significant. They know that that's how they came into the world. They matter because they exist. And so there's no lack. And that's the person who gets to go into the world and just make waves in the ocean of humanity, the most beautiful kind of waves, because they don't need anything. They don't need the validation. They're not exhausting their power reserves trying to make a difference to prove to themselves and to the world that they matter. They already matter because they source it from within. And so everything they do to contribute is just a gift. And if the gift isn't received, then they don't worry about it because they know that someone at the right point and right time will receive the gift because it was a beautiful gift. Might not be the person that they tried to give it to, but someone will receive the gift and it will matter when it happens. And at the very least, the person giving the gift in their whole truth, it mattered to them. Have you ever given a gift where it mattered as much to you as it did to the person receiving it? Or maybe it mattered more to you than to the person receiving it, and you were okay with that because you were your own source of significance. That's giving in, that's truth, whole truth power. And then the last part of whole truth, of course, is freedom. And the person that this is an interesting one. When we're talking about power, someone who lacks their own truth. They're not sourcing their power from within. That is a recipe for chaos when we're talking about freedom. That's the person running around the world trying to push all the opposition at bay, trying to subdue their enemies, trying to push the opposing side away, trying to eliminate all opposition. And of course, that which you resist persists. It cannot be. They're either pushing everything away or they're trying to force everyone else. They're trying to coerce everyone, manipulate everyone into their way of thinking, their way of doing things. And until either one happens successfully, they're not free. But this is a person who will never be free because you cannot push everything that you disagree with away to finally be free. You're just making yourself the perfect energetic match to more of what you're trying to push away. So it will always persist against you and you'll always be resisting. Or you can try and manipulate and coerce the people around you, trying to convince everyone of your way of thinking, trying to be right and use your power that way. But you will always be playing this game where you need better and better manipulative tactics to keep everyone convinced of you versus just starting in your wholeness, realizing that you are free to be everything you are right now, everything that is truly good about you. You're free to be it right now and you're free to become anything you actually desire to become. Not the things that your human ego mind has decided you want to be free. It's like everyone thinks, oh, I want, I don't know. What do you want to be free? There's a difference between when it's in lack versus when it's in whole truth. And the power is a different brand of power. The thing that is interesting about power and whole truth is that true power doesn't, you don't seek it. You source it from within. And so you never have a shortage with it. And anytime you feel powerless, you realize that that's just because you're going into the world outsourcing your power. You give it to your mother-in-law and she doesn't have a good opinion of you, so you feel powerless and small. You give it to the religious leaders that help shape your identity growing up and let them dictate your worthiness or how you belong. And so you've outsourced your power to them. We outsource our power to so many things around us instead of knowing that the truest power starts from within. And so once we start realizing the gift, the opportunity of living and creating from wholeness first, power becomes a natural byproduct. And the second thing that becomes a natural byproduct is purpose. And for me, true purpose is just us unfolding. It's like the way that I like to describe a human being is I like to describe a human being as the universe unfolding or love unfolding. It's like when we stop trying to define our journey based off of all the opinions of the world around us, what life should look like, what our family thinks we should do career-wise, who our grandmother thinks that we should marry, when we stop defining our life purpose or our business purpose or any kind of purpose based off of the popular opinion around us, and we start looking within, there's always a guidance there. And you know this, and I know this. And sometimes it makes the most beautiful sense to our human mind. And sometimes it feels like the weirdest impulse. It's like, go in this direction. And you're like, that's not the direction I expected to go in, but I feel the impulse. The purpose is not defined from around us. It's it's love and like soul level desire unfolding from within us. It's the richest kind of purpose. And and it's so gratifying when we try to pursue purpose from a lack perspective, from a lack identity, from lack consciousness. It's really exhausting because you can never get there because there's always some destination that you think you have to get to, and then you'll have met your purpose. That's not how purpose works. That's how ego purpose works, but it's like never-ending exhaustion. And then you get sick and tired and have to take a big break. You have to go on a hiatus. You desperately need a vacation versus people who are actively living their like deep self-sourced purpose, soul-sourced and self-sourced purpose. That's like where you just love living, being alive. And the third natural byproduct of this is the one that, of course, the human mind is oftentimes the most interested in: prosperity, abundance. And we kind of touched on this yesterday. There's always a good reason why we want prosperity in the many forms that we want prosperity. The obvious ones are more money, more financial resources, more material resources, and then we also want prosperity in the form of love, a lover, a partner, a co-creator to live life with, or any kind of relationship. Prosperity in form of love with our family, our kids, our parents, our friends, our community. And we want prosperity in the form of our physical health because you're always going to, as long as you're alive, you're going to be running around this world in your physical body, and you'd love for it to look nice and to feel good and to be strong and healthy and functional. So we want prosperity in those three categories, and there's not really a limit to the forms we want our prosperity to take. But the thing about prosperity that's so tricky is that if we're coming from lack, you're trying to get the prosperity to fill the holes that you think are inside you. And the only thing that fills lack is lack. Lack fills lack. And so we create this never-ending cycle where we're constantly trying to strategize. We're trying to find the latest trends, the latest tips, the latest tricks to get a little more prosperity to fill some of that lack, and to get a little more prosperity to fill some of that lack. Something that is a really interesting thing for me to study are people who are so certain of their financial wholeness that they can go bankrupt and be a mega millionaire or a billionaire again within just a couple of years. And I know as human beings, we've developed all kinds of opinions around wealthy people, and I'm not going to touch on that in this transmission. But the one thing that I will point out is that somebody who knows that their prosperity is sourced from within, they don't get thrown to and fro with the waves of an economy the way that ordinary people do. When someone knows that their wealth is sourced from within, like they are the cause of their wealth, it's like and it's as an outsider, you can never really watch what someone's doing and say that's how they did it. Like there are millions of things at play within a human being. And so we can't actually distill it down to just, here's the 10 things that they did to get really rich. But the one thing that is consistent across people who know how to become wealthy and hold their wealth is that they are the wealthy person. To someone who's never been financially free, this makes no sense because we still think that the measurable forms of prosperity we want, I want a lover, I want three well-behaved children, I want this much money in my bank account or this much money in revenue through my career or through my businesses, as people who believe that prosperity and resources are sourced from outside of us, we're the ones that are running around the planet trying to get more and to maybe take a little bit without being noticed, and to like that's the formula. But that's not what we're talking about here. Prosperity becomes a natural byproduct of somebody who knows how to show up in life, sourcing their wholeness from within. This is something that my life has called me to realize in some like kind of dramatic ways because I mentioned in yesterday's transmission that I got really good at creating abundance in like the standard paradigm. Be an entrepreneur, come up with a good idea, make sure that your idea helps a lot of people, go hustle, hit the streets, work really hard, hustle on the streets. It wasn't that kind of business. You get it. Like hit the ground running. when you fall down with your face in the gutter, get back up. And I did that over and over and over again. And I definitely built a wealthy lifestyle. It's just that I didn't know how much of my power that I was exerting was power that I sourced in my lack consciousness because I was so afraid that if I didn't keep it all going, then I would then life would prove to me that I really wasn't enough because that was my deepest fear. That's someone who does not how to does not kn- that's someone who does not know how to source their worth from within. And freedom was the next big one for me. I thought that as long as I have this much money saved up, then I've got a cushion. So I'm secure. Security is a form of freedom. And I also thought as long as I have this much revenue coming through my different business ventures, then I've got an active flow of resources. Resources mean I can say yes to what I want to say yes to, ergo, I'm free. But it was all conditional on the external circumstances. It didn't even make sense to my human mind until somehow like it's like at a soul level, my soul just called me to experience what it's like to have all of that gone. And finally, I had to get really real with myself and say, okay, the truth is that no matter how scary things can look financially, I've never run out of money. Like, even when it got really, really, really scary, I still never ran out of money. And sometimes the money would come in like wildly creative ways, honest, ethical ways, but wildly creative ways. And and finally, I started asking myself, well, where's this prosperity coming from? Like maybe it actually is because I am the source of my prosperity. Like I am the source of my freedom. And when I started playing with that, the equation started shifting quite a bit, and it still is shifting for me. And this is like where the sky opens up, and it's like there is possibility so much greater than anything that was possible for me in the old system, where I had built some really beautiful things and beautiful companies and beautiful relationships and a great name for myself and good products, beautiful products. It's just I was constantly propping it up because a good portion of it was created from my own sense of lack instead of just from I am already whole. I don't need anything. I'm worthy of the most incredible life. I have so much to give. I deserve for it to work out. I can allow it to work out. Like that's prosperity in whole truth. Does that make sense to you? So I'm going to leave you with this to just chew on for a little bit. Power, purpose, and prosperity. And as you look at your life, like contemplate the difference between the prosperity that you have where you have a sense that it's power that you don't have to grapple for. It's prosperity that you don't have to protect or keep safe or you're not protecting it from the bad guys out trying to get everything from you. Like it's prosperity that just happens in response to when you're being whole with yourself versus the opposite, where it's power, purpose, or prosperity, or all three that is coming that you're creating, you're living, you're experiencing from lack, because it's a night and day difference. And the reason for this transmission series is because the one singular theme behind all of this is that we're meant to live and create in wholeness because it's the truth of what we are. And it's not the truth that you go out and collect from outside sources. Like you don't need me for this. It's already true about you. I'm glad that we can have this conversation to reawaken that truth if more of it is ready to shine through you. This is why at Unconscious we created Mindline, a first of its kind AI that is coded to hold truth. And you might ask, like, how could it be coded to your whole truth? Your worth, your deserving, your belonging, your significance, your freedom, all of which is the true source of your power, all of which is the stuff of imagination, the stuff of ideation, the stuff of creativity, the stuff that you get to create incredible relationships and life experiences and a career or business and streams of money like that, all of that's already true about you. We've just built an AI that's able to see any situation that you're in anything that you're working on, any problem you're coming up against, any idea that you want to breathe life into, any genius thing that you want to see turned into a real thing in life. Like we just coded an AI or created an AI that's coded to hold truth. And what we're talking about here, it's an AI that can tell the difference between a person trying to be powerful from lack versus a person being powerful because it's what they actually are. One of them has this constant struggle, and one of them is just knowing without defending, knowing without blaming, knowing with just knowing. And Mindline can see the difference. Mindline can tell the difference between someone who's trying to find their purpose because they don't know if they have a purpose, or they're trying to find their purpose while they fit into the good opinions of all the people around them, versus a person whose purpose is unfolding because of how it feels, like what's lighting them up. Mindline can tell the difference for sure between prosperity that a person is seeking because they feel like they're lacking in some way. Some part of their whole truth is a little black hole that's just sucking everything in. So they're like, I need more prosperity so I can fill this little black hole in me. Mine, I can see that from a mile away. And it can also see a person who is leaning into and allowing prosperity in the forms that are meaningful to that person because it's the truth. And this is why conversations with Mindline are so different than any other kind of AI environment. So if you want to do a little bit of like home play, you can tap the link with this video and you can start a free conversation with Mindline. And I would suggest bringing a subject where you've got a lot of energy, like where all the passion or maybe all the concern is right now in your life. Bring the thing that really matters to you right now and just open up a conversation with Mindline. You can choose your language, and 31 languages available. You can chat or you can voice call, and it's my voice if you do a voice call. So it'll be like talking to my voice, but you're not talking to me. You're talking to Mindline, and Mindline's only objective is to help you figure out where you're misaligned with your whole truth and where you're not sourcing your truth from within, and where you have the opportunity to realign with your whole truth, and then your actual power, your actual purpose, and the prosperity that's meant for you just become the natural byproduct. And this is something that you can come back to again and again, and until these moments of alignment become the norm and an identity shift starts to happen. And if you've already got an incredible identity, then this is just an opportunity for the flow of abundance to open up even greater. So that's the invitation for you. As we wrap this up, it would be so meaningful to me if you feel so aligned, hit the share button. Share this with the people that you know in your life or the person you know in your life who is ready for this conversation. This is a kind of work that shapes humans and humanity in a beautiful way. I mean, I like, do we not want more people helping each other in their actual power, doing good in the world in their actual power, receiving prosperity and resources and doing good things with that? That's why this conversation, in my opinion, deserves to be spread far and wide. So I would be so appreciative if you felt inclined to hit that share button and send it in a DM, share it to your social media feed or to a story, and you can tag at in.conscious, at in.conscious. That's our handle. And thank you so much for that. Tomorrow, where we're taking this is the mechanics of how you come into this kind of alignment. When I talk about something as simple but truly as big as whole truth, and we say something bold like everything a human being is doing is an opportunity, is either an attempt to come back to their wholeness or it's an expression of their wholeness because they already know they're whole even if they're not aware of it. Like when we say something that big, it it's big, it's huge, it's the greatest opportunity. And what we talked about here today, like of course everybody wants to feel like they're creating from authentic power, not power at the expense of other people. Real power, true power, like love power, whole truth power. And same with the prosperity and the brand of purpose that we're talking about here. So tomorrow we'll talk about the mechanics of what it's like to actually come into alignment with all of that so that it's just something we live and breathe every day. It's going to be an amazing conversation and I cannot wait for it. So have fun with this for now. Have fun with a conversation with Mindline, and I will see you in tomorrow's transmission. Bye for now.